message. There you go. And then I will start sharing my screen. All right. I believe everyone can see my screen. Okay, cool. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me. I'm more than happy to stop. I'll be keeping an eye on the chats as well. So if you want to drop it in there also, that is okay. Um, yeah, believe it or not, your mentees are juniors now. They're getting closer and closer to the end of senior year, which to me is mind blowing. I feel very honored to work with these students. They're all very intelligent. They all have hilarious stories that they bring to me, and their interactions with each other, or with you guys, or with staff, or the little ones that they work with. It's always so much fun. So definitely always encourage you to have those kinds of conversations with them. But the first Junior Mentor Zoom, this one is where we try to nail a lot of what is going to get them ready for senior year. So with the students, there's a lot going on, and I kind of wanted to give all the mentors a heads up about what we'll be doing this school year, what has already started, and what we're kind of looking forward to. As always, if you're having any technical difficulties, by all means, send me a text. I am sorry, I forgot to take my phone out and put it on my desk. But if you're having any issues, send me a text, and I am happy to talk about it. Sorry about that. Let me silence that. So we kind of wanted to talk about dual enrollment, early admissions, the schools. I mentioned it briefly last year when they started sophomore year, but I really want to dive into it because some of your mentees are actually doing those this year. SAT and ACT, Magoosh for the ACT and SAT prep, and then FAFSA, and then junior year. And of course, as always, if you have any questions, let me know. I always like to shout out the team. Our administrators, Don, Bob, and Jim, overseeing all programs. I think what's great about them, they have a ton of years and work here in Collier County. Jim and Bob with Collier County Public Schools. So just today, transportation from CCPS told us that they wanted to do dismissal at 4:45, and they sent that message at 11 in the morning. So they were asking us to call 700 parents in the span of like 4 or 5 hours. But luckily, Bob and Jim know someone, so they took care of it, and we're dismissing as normal. But you know, thankfully we have them, and they provided a lot of guidance. Want to give them that shout out. Of course, you all know me. I'm Daniel. I oversee the high school programming and now the middle school programming. If you have not heard, we are working with 6th and 8th graders at Immokalee Middle School. Our original plan was to have 15 in each grade to kind of dip our feet into the water, and then next year take on 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. We had an outpour of applications. So as of right now, we have 16 sixth graders and 27 eighth graders. um, yeah, so definitely very interesting, but it is a lot of fun. Anita has been working with our seniors with senior essays, Common Apps, resumes, everything that comes with college applications. She's been working on with them. And she's also been helping me with the curriculum, bringing out speakers, presenters for the high school students. So definitely a lot of work being done. Esmeralda is working with our sophomores and juniors. She is doing the check-ins, monitoring their grades, monitoring their attendance. I will say Esmeralda does have a full plate. We recently had about 12 openings in Tutor Corps. We received over 110 applications from the high school. They were all phenomenal. It was really difficult to make decisions, but Esmeralda working with them, I have no doubt she'll keep working with them and making sure they're on the right track. Islan is working with our freshman and our middle school program. So she's overseeing the students starting out the program. And then she's also making sure that the middle school students have what they need. If you're curious, the middle school program is about getting them ready for high school, not just academically, but socially as well, because we've seen in the past few years that the students have really struggled with that. So we're bringing a lot of different topics to them. Our most recent one is Tashika Harris. She's doing 6 weeks of programming on building confidence and empowerment so that they feel more comfortable asking questions, asking for help, asking people questions. Because so many of them, when we say, do you have any questions, they just shut down and wait for the meeting to be over. And we don't want that to happen. We want them to feel comfortable talking. So Esmeralda and Islam do a great job, and I have a great team. Um, the after school team, if you haven't met them, they're a pleasure. Amanda and Monica oversee Eden Park and Highlands respectively, but they also help oversee the other three after school sites. I will say after school has been doing phenomenally. They are, I believe the latest number was about 680, and they still have applications coming in. So they're working their way up to about 800 students. If you ever have a question about work and would like to talk to them, let me know. I'd be more than happy to connect you. The students do always find out at work whether or not they want to be teachers, and they learn that pretty quick. Jorge and Abby are our college team. In case you're not familiar with that side, once they graduate from high school, we don't just let them go. We monitor their progress, making sure they're doing what they need to do, taking classes, passing classes, and making sure they're taking the right ones. They'll do check-ins with them in college throughout the semesters via Zoom or phone call, and even sometimes in person. But anyone on the team, if you ever have any questions, we're more than happy to meet and talk about things. So dual enrollment and early admissions, some of your students are now enrolled in these. There is a difference, and I just wanted to make sure everyone kind of knew that. Dual enrollment means that they're taking classes both at Immokalee High School and Florida Southwestern State College. Those FSW classes can be in person or online. FSW offers a variety. They offer the online component, they offer the classes at their campuses. They also have started to do where they're providing a teacher from the high school a stipend to teach a college class at the high school, like almost like a high school class, but it's actually a college class, which is really cool and really convenient for the student because then they don't have to worry about transportation. They don't have to worry about the teacher being behind a screen. It's there in person as a group. Early admissions is when they're taking classes only at the college or university, on campus, or online. Me personally, I will always push the high school juniors and seniors, if they're doing fully college courses, not to do them online. They just don't have the discipline yet. Some of them do. I will grant that some of them do. But for a majority of them, they're just not ready for that level of coursework to be done completely online. So if your student says they're early admissions, that means they're only taking college classes. If they're saying they're doing enrollment, they're taking both high school and college classes. And so to highlight the difference, FSW offers both dual enrollment and early admissions. So they can be one or the other if they're taking those. We do have two juniors who are early admission students at FGCU. FGCU only does early admissions. They can't do both high school and college classes. They have a counselor that works specifically with them. We do have two of them, so there is that as well. But just so you know, the differences between FSW and FGCU. Any questions on dual enrollment early admissions before I jump into SAT and ACT?
Daniel, what is the schedule for considering dual enrollment or early admissions for the senior year, and what are the steps to do it?
So both options can be taken as early as junior year. And they do have that option. When they're taking and registering for college classes, they have the option of taking the ones offered at Immokalee High as part of their normal period schedule, like they have it like 6th period with one of the teachers there. The other option is that they will go online like a normal college student and register for classes. So it could be they have classes Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays. It could be Tuesdays, Thursdays. It could be all week long. It really just depends on how early they get onto the portal to register for their classes. So if a student comes to us and tells us they're gonna register for FGCU, we will get them, make sure that they're registering quick. As of right now, both of our students at FGCU are taking classes Monday through Friday because unfortunately they couldn't get those days off, but Monday through Friday, and they're out by 2 p.m., I believe it was.
I'm sorry, I think you misunderstood my question. My question was, when you look at the calendar year, when do the students need to make a decision on dual enrollment and early admissions? When during the calendar year, and what is the process for making that decision and being accepted?
Oh, okay, sorry. Yes, so they will have had these conversations with their counselors back in February and March of last school year. They'll actually meet with their counselor. The counselor will register them for either the ACT, the SAT, or what's known as the AccuPlacer test. Those are the requirements for FSW. If they want to take an FGCU class, they'll be registered for the ACT or SAT. So for this current junior year, if they want to do it senior year, then they want to start talking to their counselor in November and December to get that idea to them, because the counselors, if you guys don't know, Immokalee High School is now the largest high school in the county with 2,000 students. Gulf Coast sent some students to Aubrey Rogers, so they're no longer the largest populated. It's Immokalee High. But each counselor works with about 400 to 500 students. So it's up to the student to make sure that they're in front of their counselor saying, I'm interested in dual enrollment, I'm interested in early admissions as early as November, December. That way they're taking their tests in January and February. And by March or April, they know whether or not they qualify and they can be registered for next school year.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. And it is also possible for them to take some classes in the spring. And if that's what they want to do, then they need to be letting them know now, via Canvas or via email. If they let them know now, that way they can start in the spring. Okay. Go ahead, BJ. Herb.
Herb, I have a question. What is the college class taught at the high school? What is the subject?
I believe there's 3. There's American history up until 1865, American history from 1865 to present, and I believe it's composition 1, if I'm correct off the top of my head. I can double check and I can make a note to send that out to everyone.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Awesome. So SAT and ACT, as Tutor Corps, we've always hit this kind of hard, and this year we're able to hit it even harder. So with SAT and ACT, what you may have heard about the test is that one is it's better for you to take if you're stronger in math. One is better for you to take if you're stronger in English or reading. Now, what the format is, it just is the structure of the test. The questions are very similar. The subjects are very evenly scored. So if they're stronger in reading or math, it doesn't really matter which test they take. What we want each junior to do is, by the end of this year, each one of them is going to take each of these tests at least once. That way they can understand which test structure they prefer the most. So for the ACT, there are 5 sections. One is optional. I have not seen a college require a writing score, but that is an option for them to take. Right. English is 90 questions in 55 minutes. Math, 65 questions for 65 minutes, so a minute per question. Reading, 50 questions in 45 minutes. And science, 47 questions in 45 minutes. The high school students receive 4 ACT waivers to take the test for free. So that's why we do register each of them for each test at least once. The SAT, I will say this is a more popular test nowadays with the high school students. Only has 3 sections. Reading, 52 questions in 65 minutes. Writing and language, 44 questions in 35 minutes. And math, 58 questions in 80 minutes. I will say the SAT gives them a little bit more time per question when it comes to reading and math, but in writing and language, they gotta be quick when it comes to grammar. It really depends on what test structure the student prefers. That's why we have them each take both of them at least once. This way they can understand. For the SAT, they get 2 waivers. So in total, they get 6 waivers overall. Something that the school districts always talk about, and if Jim was here, he'd say the same thing. For some reason, students always do better on the June test at the end of the school year. I believe it's because they've already reviewed all the material up until junior year. They know all the knowledge for reading, math, and writing, and then they already have everything. They've gotten out of a testing period, so they're more comfortable with testing. Sometimes it's just that it's during a week that they didn't have any school. They seem more relaxed, and they're not as stressed about it, so they perform at a better level. We're not really sure what the reasoning is, but they do tend to perform better at that June test. The ideal situation is that each student will have the score they need before entering senior year for their college or their university. So what we're doing with all sophomores and juniors is each of them is receiving a Magoosh account. We used to do this about 4 or 5 years ago, but then they increased their prices. So we couldn't afford to pay for each account. So we ended up doing an ECT prep portal. But now Magoosh, we were talking to one of their representatives. They actually lowered their prices for us. So we actually got a better deal. Every student in the sophomore and junior class is receiving a Magoosh account. They've already received the email to set up their account. So that way they can already start going into the portal. When it comes to these tests, it's not always the material that trips up the students, it's the testing strategies. They'll spend 10 minutes on one question rather than jumping into 20 different questions that they already know, because for some reason they think that that question is going to be weighed more. We explain to them that each question is rated the same. The points add up the same. So what we want them to do is to tackle the easy questions first, come back to the hard ones, just basic testing strategies. But the students also get nervous, they get panicky, they stress themselves out, and in the middle of the test, they're thinking, if I don't finish this test, my life is over. But when they're starting to understand these strategies, they feel a little bit more comfortable with them. So we're definitely pushing Magoosh. When it comes to the difficulty level of questions between SAT and ACT, they're basically at the same level. They'll have some hard ones, medium amount of easy ones, and then medium amount of medium ones. They're very similar. It's just the student tackling and approaching the test in different ways and understanding what they're more comfortable with and making sure that they follow the same routine, because too many of them will also say, you know what, I'm going to bed on time tonight. I have my test tomorrow. When testing experts have said they need to follow their normal routine so that they can perform at the regular level. Otherwise, they're tossing and turning, or if they have breakfast when they normally don't have breakfast, then it's throwing them off of their normal schedule. But each student has a Magoosh account. We're actually monitoring the time they spend on the portal. I believe I also mentioned, I mentioned that each one is required to take the SAT and SAT in their junior year. What we're also doing is we're bringing in presenters to speak to them about careers, about jobs, about professionalism, about etiquette, about a variety of different things. But if there's a week where we don't have a presenter coming out to them, each student would sit down in the lab and log into their Magoosh account and work on the test prep. So that way we make sure that they're getting some additional time to work in the portal if they're having trouble to ask questions, because too often they'll try to ignore their SAT, ACT prep, but if they're working on it consistently throughout the school year, it'll improve their score vastly.
Daniel, I have a couple of questions on that.
Go ahead.
One is, what is the expectation of when these tests should be taken during the junior year? Because I assume most of these students have not taken it during their sophomore year. And secondly, what is your expectation for how much time they should be spending on this Magoosh portal every week throughout the school year, so that there are some benchmarks or some checkpoints of, are they progressing as expected?
Yeah, of course. So we're expecting each of them to do about an hour a week. Esmeralda, Anita, and myself have administrator accounts. So we're actually able to log in and make sure that they're spending that hour a week. We see how many questions they answered, what they did. So if they just logged in and didn't do anything for an hour, we would know that. And we told them all ahead of time as well that we're monitoring their progress. The expectation, we're trying to get them all registered for tests between October and January for both SAT and ACT. So that way, when they take it again at the end of the school year, they've already taken both at least once, and they know which one they're going to take at the end of the school year. There may be situations where a student is facing circumstances that delays them in registering for the test. We work with each one to kind of get them all registered as soon as we can. The only ones who have taken the SAT or ACT sophomore year will be students who paid for it themselves. The way the county works with the waivers, they're not eligible to receive them until sophomore year ends. So they can get a waiver the day after sophomore year ends, but no sooner than that. So if they did take the SAT or ACT, it's because they paid for it themselves with either their tutor core money or parent money or just whatever they may have. Is that gonna address all your questions, Linda?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any questions on SAT or ACT? Okay. So, something we're working on with the seniors right now, we work with them on it every year, is FAFSA. So it's the free application for federal student aid. What I wanted to bring up to all of you, because we'll also, once the FAFSA opens, this is gonna take place in December, we're gonna work with the juniors to do their FAFSA for next school year. What happens with a lot of our students is they get accepted to a college or university for the summer term because it may have a little bit more relaxed test scores or relaxed GPA, but they'll start in the summer versus the fall. So they'll have needs to completed the FAFSA for the previous year. Common issues that we run into the FAFSA that, for example, right now we're running into it with the seniors as we get prepared for this upcoming FAFSA. So that's why we pushed it back to get the juniors ready as well. Parents' taxes. If your student ever mentions that, you know, it's kind of weird the way my parents do their taxes, let us know right away. We have some resources that'll help them for free to amend or adjust or even complete their taxes. We have a partnership with VITA. I can't remember what the acronym is, but they help the parents complete the taxes or make amendments, and they have certified professionals who do it with them. FAFSA has FAFSA has updated and changed its name to the Better FAFSA. They went through an entire portal change last year, which caused delays in FAFSA completions because of issues. One of the biggest changes with FAFSA is that every parent needs to have an FSA ID, regardless of whether or not they have a social security number. If they don't have a social security number, they have to complete what's known as an identity verification, where they have to call FAFSA, verify who they are. If a student waits until it opens in senior year to complete this, then they're calling along with everyone else in the country. So we're having them do it early so that they're not on hold for like 5 to 6 hours. Rather, it's only like 30 to 45-ish minutes. Still horrible, but much better than the alternative.
So Daniel, so we don't need to talk with them about whether their parents have this ID because your team is doing that?
Yeah, we're doing it. We're taking care of it. We identify any issues quickly. So for example, for our seniors right now, we have 3 that we're working with to get everything fixed. Claim dependents. Sometimes the parents are married. They're filing separately. One parent claims some kids, another parent claims another, or one parent is claiming all the kids, or maybe a father or mother who's not in the picture is claiming the kids. We've navigated a lot of different situations, so just know we're on top of it. We always make sure every student completes the FAFSA before the end of the school year. Make sure that the school gets it and that they get the best financial aid package possible. The biggest issue is when it is released. So last year, it got delayed from October 1st to December 1st. And then it got delayed and they said it would be released before December 31st. It got released on December 31st. This year, it got delayed from October 1st, and they said it's gonna be open before December 31st. So we're hoping it'll open in December, fingers crossed, but it may not open till later on. Either way, we'll work with the students. Hopefully this doesn't impact your students next year when they're seniors. But if it does, we'll jump that hurdle when it comes to it. Any questions on FAFSA? All right, cool. So I just wanted to let you all know for junior year, we'll be tracking their GPA from the high school. If they're doing dual enrollment or early admissions, we'll be tracking that GPA as well. That dual enrollment or early admissions GPA from the college is gonna follow them when they attend undergraduate post-senior year. It does impact them. It is an official college transcript. So we do track that as well. If we still see a student dipping, because we're not just checking it at the end of the semester, we check it like every 3 to 4 weeks. If we see a dip in their assignment submissions or their grades or anything, we have a meeting with them to get that fixed because it impacts the long term. We do start tracking their desired majors because this is when they get a little bit more locked onto what they want to do. SAT and ACT registrations, again, we want to have every student registered, so we'll be tracking that for every student. If the student has an older sibling or if they make one themselves, we'll be keeping a confidential file of their FSA IDs of either them or their parents. So if they make it this year, we'll keep a file of it, we'll keep it somewhere safe. So that way next year, when they say I lost it or I can't find it, I need a call to recover it. It's like, no, you don't. We have it over here. Here you go. It has happened often. And we're tracking the time they spend on Magoosh as they progress throughout the year so that we make sure that they're completing their time on the portal. And if you'd like to meet with your mentee on a Saturday, this is every Saturday available in the fall from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. We have a staff member here at the center, so if you'd like to meet one-on-one with your mentee and don't want to have to worry about bringing a friend or your mentee bringing a sibling, we'll have a staff member here at the center on all of these dates. And that is it for my presentation. Right on the mark at 2 o'clock, nice. Any questions?
Hey, Daniel, if your mentee is involved in sports or other extracurricular activities, I don't know how they could do dual enrollment or early admissions. Is that a correct assumption?
It is possible. We do tell the students it's going to be a little bit more difficult because they are taking college classes, but it is possible. Last year, our early admission students participated in beta, Model UN. I believe one of them did lacrosse, but that's also where the students start to realize which one they want to focus on. So they only do one club or sport aside from Guadalupe. They'll only do one or two another ones so that they can focus on those and their sport.
But I mean, if they came to you and asked for a recommendation and they're in a extracurricular activity that's taking a lot of time, what would you tell them?
It depends on the student, because there are some who perform very well academically and don't have any trouble with it. Those, I typically say you need to discipline yourself and put yourself on a schedule because those are the students who are getting through with no studying whatsoever. So I'll recommend them, as long as you put yourself on a schedule, go for it. For other students, we may say this is going to be a tough class. You're going to need to go to the tutoring center or the writing center. You may have to cut back on the extra practices you do or the games you attend because it's going to be tough. There are also, so nothing against Immokalee High School's counseling team. They have a lot of students to work with, but there have also been situations where they have registered a student for 4 dual enrollment or early admissions classes and then 3 high school classes. So they have a total of 7 classes, which is, in my mind, insane. But again, nothing against the Immokalee High School counseling team. They work with a lot of kids, but that's also why we work with them ahead of time to get their registration schedules. We find the counseling teams, we find who we need to talk to make sure they have a more manageable schedule. So if a student comes to us and says, I want to do full-time college, then we'll sit down and talk to them and how they can balance it out. Because some of them can't handle it yet. We may say start with 1 or start with 2 and then see how it goes and then progress until later. I hope that kind of answered the question.
Got it.
Any other questions?
So Daniel, so the Magoosh app, if you know, I'm going to follow up later this afternoon with my mentees. So she already has an account and such, and then you, Anita, and the team can kind of monitor her progress to make sure that she's going in there and doing her test prep.
Yeah, we officially got the accounts. I believe it was 2 weeks ago. There are a few who have been having registration issues, but we're working on getting them fully set up. There is the online version on a computer, but there's also a phone app version on their phone. So we tell them when you're sitting in a class or you're waiting for work to start or you're at home and you're just hanging out, jump on your phone, just a few minutes. It's nothing too difficult, but They have computer and phone app options.
Okay, yeah, that was my next question. Was it just online or can they use it like on an app? Okay, so she does have access to it on her phone. Thank you.
Any other questions? I know I threw a lot of information out there. This is why I write everything down.
Great presentation, Daniel. I mean, we've been tutors for a while and it's always helpful to have reviewed, but you got a lot of additional stuff in here this time. Fills in the cracks a bit. Thank you so much.
And these kids
Thank
are
you,
really
Herb.
fortunate to have the help
Oh,
that you give them.
thanks, yeah.
That's really special.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, BJ. Yeah, we got a great team. I thank them every day because we all work to the bone. Normally I would say we're gonna take a 10-minute break for the breakout sessions, but because we told the students to go to their work sites or go to home, we'll end it here. If you want to hang back and ask any questions, you're more than welcome to, but that's all for today. Thank you everyone for attending. I really appreciate it. I'll send out the recording with the recap and all the notes. Either if not today, Friday, because we are closed tomorrow because of the storm. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Daniel.
Bye. Bye-bye.